how ready we are. Well, the moderator of this session, I'm Dr. Niyonzima Eliezer. So without taking much time, I don't know whether our people from the technical table, if we are ready with the presenters. The first presenter is a group of Amuki Joseph Kesi, Elizabeth Mukoba, and Buni Mugawe, who are going to present a paper entitled Development of a Centralized Disease Database with Machine Learning Model for Forecasting Malaria in South Sudan. Are the presenters here with us? Are they online? Check for us online whether you have this group of Amuki Joseph Kesi, Elizabeth Mukoba, and Boni Mugawe. Maybe one of this group can present. Take table. Do you see this group? One of these, Amuki Joseph Kesi, Elizabeth Mukoba, or Boni Mugawe. If they are not connected, the second group is yes, I think that's the paper. Does this mean they are online? They can now connect. And if they are following us, to save time, each team should use 10 minutes. Each presentation should last 10 minutes. Okay, please, who is there? Amuki or Mukoba or Mugawe, please unmute your microphone. We can't hear you. Unmute your microphone. We can't hear you. We can see your screen, but we can't hear you. Can you hear me? Is it Kesi, Mukoba, or Mugawe? Can you hear me? Kindly unmute your mic. Yes, we can hear you. Go ahead. You restart. We were not following you.
the human
not be in use. Now, this is the problem that is between these two sides. We in the academia seize the opportunity and decide to go in there and conduct some study. What do we want to see? The leachate that is being produced, normally if it does not meet certain standards, it should not be let out into the environment. So we want to find out if the leachate that is being produced, that is giving out that stench, in the first place meets international standard for release into the environment. And then number two, we also want to find out its pollution potential to determine that, we have to calculate the pollution index, okay? Now, we also want to find out, depending on the leachate characteristics, how should this leachate be treated? Because it is known that leachates are very difficult to treat. Every leachate that is emanating from a dump site has its own characteristics, depending on the type of dump or the type of waste material that are being dumped there. And therefore, we'll have to do characterization and find out the specific type of elements that are in the leachate, and then how do we treat it. Then lastly, we want to try and behave as arbiters here between the two feuding parties, the managers of the landfill, and then the residents of the area. What do we want to do? We'll try using the characteristics of the leachate to diagnose the age of the dump site, so that at the end of the day, we'll come out and then say the leachate, after all, it is not as old as the residents are implying, or truly it is very old and it must be decommissioned. Okay. So this is the study site. To the far right is the country Ghana. Then the big green is the entire Insumia area. And then to the down right is the landfill site. Now, how did we approach this? Leachate samples were collected over 6 months, and each time we went there, 3 types of samples were taken. One group of sample was taken for analysis of heavy metal, and this was a composite sample taken from 2 outlets from the landfill. And then another sample was taken for the measurement of physicochemical parameters in a laboratory. A third sample was collected for the determination of BOD. Some parameters like the TDS, electrical conductivity, pH, and DO, they were taken in situ. Now this is a portion of what I've been trying to explain. This one was even in the dry season, but when it is rainy season, or whenever it rains, the leachate spills and it runs through the entire town and giving the offensive odor. And whenever it spills, it pollutes the agricultural land because some of the people also farm on them. Now, this is generally the analysis that were done. The physicochemical parameters were taken through spectrophotometry, largely. The heavy metals, they were analyzed first by digesting them and then taking them through AAS analysis. The total coliform bacteria, they were also analyzed by culturing them on violet red bile agar and then incubating. So this is the digester, Chelder block digester, it's automated, and then the AAS is Pinnacle 900T. Now, we want to calculate the leachate pollution index. According to one author, Kuma and Alapat, they were the originator of the determination of the pollution indices for leachate. What they came out with is 18 parameters. They identify 18 parameters that are important in determining pollution indices of leachate. And these 18 parameters, they have categorized them into 3 groups again: the organics, the inorganics, and then the heavy metals. Now, each of these groups, the leachate pollution index is calculated for each of these subgroups. So for the organics, the pollution index is calculated for it. For inorganics, the same, and then the heavy metal. Now, when that is done, for the organics, it is LPI with subscript OR. Inorganic, LPI subscript IN. And so for heavy metal, subscript HM. Now, what are these parameters that we are talking about? For the organics, the parameters that are considered are COD, BOD, phenolic compounds, and then total coliform. Inorganic and the heavy metals, they are all listed there. But each of these parameters is given a weight. Why? Depending on the importance of each parameter in contributing to the pollution index of the leachate, it is weighted. So for instance, if COD, according to experts, they think that it plays more role in determining the toxicity of the leachate, then it is weighted more or over and above the others. So the weight factors are there. For COD, 0.267, down to heavy metals like iron, 0.088. So the weight factors are not the same. Now, the leachate pollution index itself is calculated from this expression, where the WI is the weight of the parameter that we are talking about in each of the subgroups, like we just explained. Now, P here, which is referred to as the sub-index score, is a function of the level or the concentration of the parameter that is measured in the leachate. So, when you take the sample into the laboratory and you subject it to analysis, the concentration that you get, the P is a function of that concentration. Okay? It is also predetermined. Now, after you've determined the leachate pollution indices of the organics, the inorganics, and the heavy metals, we aggregate all of them using this equation 2. The coefficients attached to each of the pollution indices there also talks about the extent to which each of these categories contribute to the pollution. So if you have that of the organics, inorganics, and heavy metal, and you aggregate all of them, you will get the overall leachate pollution index. Okay? The overall leachate pollution index, when calculated before the leachate can be released into the environment, its value should not go beyond 7.378. But from our calculation, what we had, the overall leachate pollution index is 17.374, which means that the leachate that is coming out from this landfill is very toxic and must not be released into the environment without treatment. However, that is not the case. It is just released into the environment. Now, leachate pollution index of organics that we had, if we go back, you see for the organics is 39.8, the inorganic 16, and the heavy metal is 17. That for organics and then the inorganic have also exceeded the acceptable limit. That for the organics, maximum should be 16. And that's for the organic, maximum should be 7.06. And that for the inorganic, it should be 6.57. Now, so it is very clear that the organics here are the dominant contributor to the pollution potential of the leachate. And that, if that is so, if you are going to treat the leachate, then you have to pay attention to how you are going to get this organic out of the leachate. However, if you look at these subgroups into details, if you look at the organics, what is contributing to the pollution there mostly is total coliform. Okay, thank you. If you look at the inorganics, it is total dissolved solids. For the heavy metals, already its total leachate pollution index is below that of the standard. So we don't have much problem there. So the major influencing factors are the organics and the inorganics. But one thing about organics and the inorganics, particularly TDS, if you combine them, how to treat the leachate becomes very difficult because the total dissolved solid, it does not lend itself to proper treatment in combination with the organics. Okay? And it's also important to know that when these TDS are in the leachate and they are released into surface water, they pollute the aquatic organisms that are there. So, in short, we want to say that from here, if you have to prefer a treatment method to the leachate, we have to consider a method that will take the total dissolved solid and then the organics into consideration. Now, worldwide, thank you. Various ways or approaches of treating leachate are this. We have physical approach, we have chemical approach, biological, we have combined, and currently what is coming up and then is gaining currency is that just take the leachate and pass it through the wastewater treatment processes. The wastewater that we have, the way we treat it, just lift it up and then let it go through that treatment. And that is all. It is better. Now, it is important to stress this because many leachates are not treated. Meanwhile, we have wastewater treatment plants in our countries. So the easiest thing is just to lift this leachate and then co-treat them with the wastewater. And then most of the problem will be solved. But in this approach, the organics are those that will be solved, that will be eliminated from it. But the inorganics are like the TDS, and if there are any heavy metals, they'll still be there. So if we look at the nature of our leachate, though organics dominate, the TDS cannot be catered for by this approach, okay? Now, the physical and then the chemical method, we can use absorption. For instance, activated charcoal can absorb the contaminant. We can use membrane filtration, and then chemically we can use coagulants like aluminum chloride in coagulating the whole thing, and then it will settle at the bottom, you get a clearer water, and then you can dispose of. We can also use biological means, either phytoremediation or bioremediation. But what is very common is the use of either aerobic or anaerobic digestion. Commonly, these two are used. Now, the fourth one, which is the combined method, will consider the combination of any of these. Because of time factor, I will have to run with from here. The advanced oxidative process, which is one of the physical means, it involves generation of very reactive radicals, like hydroxyl radicals, that can disintegrate the contaminants in the leachate. But that approach is very, very expensive. Now, currently, there is this membrane bioreactor approach. What does it do? It is just like treating the wastewater. So it uses the biological treatment approach, anaerobic digestion or aerobic digestion. Then after that, it goes through membrane filtration. Now, the membrane filtration here, the pore size of the membrane normally is 0. Okay. Okay. So from here, membrane bioreactor is what will be recommended. Now, I'm just going to run through this 1 minute. In trying to determine whether the leachate or the landfill is old or is young, you calculate these parameters and compare them to the characteristics of young, medium, or old leachate. After doing all these computations, the leachate from this landfill site shows that out of the 8 parameters, 5 have indicated that the dump site is quite old. And because of that, well, the natives have a point. They can say it is old by our calculation, therefore it should decommission. 3 here indicate that it's not old. Now, if you look at the 3 critically, the TDS and the conductivity, because this one, every day they are adding more material, they generate more dissolved substances. And the moment TDS goes up, conductivity will also automatically go up. So this one, it is always so. Therefore, in conclusion, if you look at the 4 to 5, that is the main part, we will recommend that membrane bioreactor should be the main approach to the treatment. But in the absence of that, you can combine treatment, you can combine the leachate with the wastewater and treat it. Now, the facility, as we have considered, we can say from our determination that it is not that young. It is quite old. Therefore, we think that the residents of the area, they have a point in saying that the landfill should be decommissioned. I think we'll stop here. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you for this presentation. One observation or questions?
Thank you very much, Dr. Cranting, for your presentation. The first question is, what is the current state of the facility, decommissioned or still there? And then the second one is, what has your research contributed? Your membrane biofactor, has it contributed to them improving how they treat leachate, or is still the same method, is still being released as it is? Thank you.
There is another one.
Thank you very much. So thank you very much, Doctor, for your presentation. My question is on the social aspect, socioeconomic aspect of the study that you did. As a country, we all know that we have limited facilities in this regard. The issues show clearly that the pollution index is way above the acceptable standards. You have proposed a number of leachate treatment methods. But my question is, to what extent is the facility ready, based on your study, to transition? Because if we cannot have adequate alternatives, yet we are also having issues of encroachment on buffer zones of these facilities, and these same beneficiaries complain of it, how ready are we to transition to these new technologies? And if we are not, to what extent does this initiate the conversation for alternative sources of waste management in this regard? Thank you.
Good. Good questions here. Please, you can answer the questions.
Honestly, the state of the facility, when the issue was raised, the waste managers acknowledged that it was supposed to have been decommissioned in around 2019, 2020. And they convinced the residents, in order to prevent the agitation, that they have acquired a new place where they relocate the landfill activities. But the problem with it is that the new place that was also acquired, development has caught up with the place. And those who have landed properties there also started raising agitation that already this place is developing. You can't site landfill in the middle of the community. And therefore, the new place that they have targeted, that place too, there's a problem with it. And because of that, The facility is still in use as at now, even though it's supposed to be decommissioned 2019, it's still in use, okay? And you asked if the membrane bioreactor, if it is, what is being recommended is actually being used. Okay. The engineer of the city, we met, and then we shared our results or our findings with him. The first question he asked us was that, have you shared these findings with the community members? We said no. And then he thanked us, because he said if we were to share this with them, they would have descended on them. And so we should just keep it to ourselves, and they are doing everything possible. And at the right time, they think they'll relocate. But like I said, relocating is not as easy as that. They would like to, but wherever you go, particularly in the Accra metropolis, all the lands are acquired. Wherever you target, people have bought their lands. So no matter what happens, nobody will want landfill to be sited behind his backyard. And so this agitation will always come. Okay. Now, as to whether we are ready to transition, I think the waste managers, now they know all the options. For me, it should be very easy because we do wastewater treatment. Even if we cannot use the bioreactor, we should just lift the leachate and send it through the traditional waste management processes. Then, the toxicity of the leachate will be reduced to the extent that probably it will only be the inorganics that can be released into the environment. All the organics would have come down considerably. So I think that with this one, our waste managers must look at it critically and take decision. It's not so difficult to do, if you ask me. Yeah.
Yes, thank you very much for this presentation. The next presenter, Mongili, Rukundo Eraste, Ishimwe Viviane, Guido Matrera, Paolo Ciampolini. Yes, now please, let us go systematically, because we cannot present our presentations as we have prepared them. Go just to the problem statement, methodology, and the findings, and then you conclude in less than 10 minutes. Thank you. Put on the screen of the Zoom, please.
That's it. Thank you very much. Good afternoon. I'm pleased to be here, and much appreciation to the organizers of the conference. My name is Viviane Ishimwe. Probably the screen is not fitting with the slides. I'm a student of the University of Parma in Italy, and a public servant at Rwanda Polytechnic. I'm here as a presenter representing a research team from the University of Parma, and I'm presenting the work related to an IoT ecosystem for smart management of photovoltaic systems in remote area. This is a study which has been conducted in the framework of a project abbreviated as GREETER project, which stands for the Growing Energy Awareness through Higher Education in Rwanda. And this is a project which is co-founded by the European Union together with the Erasmus program. And if you keep going up, please. This study has been conducted after observing that with the national strategies for transformation of Rwanda. Sure, I'll be short. It's been conducted to contribute to the program of Rwanda to have the universal access of electricity to all, as it was stated in the NST1, and we know that almost about 48% of this grid will be off-grid due to the landscape of Rwanda, which is made of mountains, and it's not easy to have the grid connection in terms. Then what motivated us to conduct this study, we know that when there is no electricity, especially for the rural areas, it's hard for them to grow economically and have this equitable electricity, either expanding the grid or even move to the renewable energy, as we are relying much on solar, since we have 12 hours of day here, which does not change at all, means we have much of renewable energy based on the solar system. And we need also to transform the mindset and the development of the real society in terms of this renewable energy and the opportunities that would come from it according to the application and the services that can be made. And then this study has been also conducted in a framework of equipping and helping technical technicians, improving the number and equip them in terms of capacity building. Then the aim of this study is to have, we intend to test a smart control in renewable energy management. If you keep moving, please. And our specific task that we aim to implement comes in terms of monitoring and controlling renewable systems using Internet of Things, and have a centralized cloud layers in which we can have these systems, use the containerization to ensure that we have independent peripheral hardwares, and have a learning platform which can be accessible to students of participating universities. Please keep moving. The purpose of the project, as I've mentioned at the beginning, this study has been conducted in the framework of a project which is being done in a collaboration with Rwandan universities and European universities. And it aims to enhance the energy awareness through higher education. That's why it has targeted higher education, higher learning institutions. Please stay there a little bit at the upper side. And we have 4 pilot sites that has been selected in Rwanda. We called them as living labs. When we say living labs, it's like a real-world environment which is powered by photovoltaic, and which serves different purposes, means according to the application, according to the site that has been selected. And each pilot site is managed by one of the Rwandan university. Means these living labs, if I mention them, those are like pilot sites in the other term. They serve the purpose for the community outreach and awareness about the renewable energy and the opportunities. It serves the purpose to provide energy access to the rural community that are there in these pilot sites. It serves also as an education opportunity, an educational opportunity to students of those higher learning institutions that are partners of the project. Please keep moving. Yep. Don't worry, I'll be done in 10 minutes that you gave me. These higher learning institutions are the 4 that are displayed on the screen. We have Rwanda Polytechnic, UTAB, INES, and UR. Please keep moving. How have we done that? Each of the system at the pilot site is made by the following components that are displayed on the screen. Normally, the normal components that are part of a photovoltaic system. Please keep moving. Then the 4 pilot sites that I've mentioned, the first one is located in Bugesera, and it's a pilot site which is assigned to the University of Rwanda, the College of Science and Technology. This is a farm, an avocado plantation, which is made of 6 hectares. The need of it is to irrigate this plantation using the off-grid system and having, normally they're using a diesel pump, as it's mentioned, And we would like to replace the diesel with an electric one, which is automated using IoT system. And then the dissemination will come to the farmers and to the students of the University of Rwanda as well. Please keep moving. The second pilot site is a pilot site located at Byumba. It's a group scolaire of Byumba, which is assigned to the university, to UTAB. And this is intended to also use photovoltaic system, but for the application of powering up demo class, which will benefit to the students as is shown on the picture. Please keep moving. The third pilot site is assigned to the Ines Ruhengeri, and it's a parish which is intended to use photovoltaic system to supply a training center, which is a tailoring center helping females, young females, and then using electric tailoring workshop using the energy from the photovoltaic. And the fourth living lab is assigned to Rwanda Polytechnic, the College of Tumba, which is a Muyanza village. It's a village which is means those, as is shown on the picture, these are like model villages which is given a photovoltaic system and monitored, and some other services are given like water purification and biogas systems to help them improve their lifestyles. With the architecture which is there, means, as I mentioned, it's a photovoltaic, but which is relying on IoT. Down here, it's a field unit. By the field unit, I mean it will depend on the application, depending on the pilot site. We got PV and battery as the common parts of, please stay there a bit because that's the main presentation normally. We got the PV and the battery, which are the elementary parts of the PV system, and we got a charge controller, which is embedded with the current sensors and the voltage sensor, which are means for the line of the PV, for the line of the for the line of the battery, and for the line of the load. I mean, it can sense the power, I mean the voltage and the current for the three lines. Then we got sensors. For instance, with the Wigesera farm, we have field sensors, which would be moisture, temperature, humidity, which are connected to the ESP32 controller. It has been selected for the sake of, it has the Wi-Fi capability to send this data to the cloud system. And also the ESP32 is embedded with Modbus technology to be able to communicate with the charge controller. Then the data is sent to the cloud system and sent to the broker using the MQTT protocol. Then these data are stored in a JSON format, the JavaScript orientation object notation. And this has been done because the JSON is flexible and it's scalable, and we can add more data in case we be expanding the system. This data has the ID and the other things. At the top, we got the users, which means these are the high learning university that will be monitoring the data coming from the field of the system. And within this cloud system, the data are stored on a Linux database, which is for now the server of EWS, in which we can store the data and retrieve them when needed. That's the image of the existing system, I mean the prototype that we are deploying on the field side, I mean on the pilot side that we are having. If we keep moving. And then these are data that are being monitored remotely. I mean, we need to know the status of the system which is deployed at each living lab, and knowing the parameters that are being measured of each living lab. Here we're having the data from, a sample have been taken on a day, means 24 hours timing, to know the status of the battery, the PV, and the load that have been deployed on the pilot side. The upper side of the images are the daytime, and the one shading down is when the sun is set. And the graphic on the other side is the data, means we're having data that each data is given a data ID, a timestamp, and the value of the data that is being read, if it's the temperature or environment condition or other things. And then by concluding, I mean, this research is being done in the framework of the project to contribute to the control of smart systems of the PV systems. This is helping with the Living Lab, which we mentioned as pilot sites, is contributing to the link between the academia and the population, means the surrounding community. With the surrounding community, it's in terms of giving them opportunities that will come from the renewable energy according to the applications. And students also from the partnering universities that have been mentioned are having occasions to have real-time implementation and testing of the control of renewable energy system. The system are cheap because all these are made on field, means we don't buy them. The PV and other things are combined, are built on the field. So thank you for your kind attention. Those are references. Please, if you have questions, proceed.
Thank you for the brilliant presentation, though time doesn't allow us to enjoy it adequately. Anyway, if there is one question or observation, otherwise you could even address some comments or questions to her later. But if there is one question, we can take it. If not, thank you very much. The next presenters are Elvira Kwatenge, Jemin Peter Jakurwa, and Hope Mbelwa. Are they here or they are online? They are online. They can connect at once.
Hello.
Yes, go ahead, please.
Oh, can you hear me?
Yes, can you introduce yourself? Yes, go ahead and remember.
Can someone confirm if you can hear me?
Remember, we are
Just
very
so that
limited
I
in
can
time. In time, you just introduce yourself and
I can hear you.
paper, and
Okay,
then
thank you, Crescent. So good afternoon
and then
or
you
morning.
go. You go
Welcome to our presentation today. My name is Elvira Botenge. I'm here on behalf of
Elvira,
Yes.
would you please ask the other people, because I'm in Tanzania also like you, maybe they are not hearing you.
we can hear you all, but I'm telling you that we are very short of time, and you will use like 5 minutes or so just to finish your presentation. Go through quickly, introduce your paper, then the problem briefly, and then the findings, and then you conclude very quickly.
Okay, I'll do my best. So, just to get started, so we are going to discuss, we are going to discuss an enhancement of nuclear regulatory inspections using blockchain. And to, put us or paint a picture is we want to discuss blockchain technology application in nuclear regulation, because as we are aware, initially it was founded to to work with cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin, but right now its potential has expanded and it's being used in different sectors like healthcare, education, and also energy sectors. So traditionally, you find that nuclear regulation is vital to ensure that nuclear facilities operate safely and also compliant. And, this is important for the safety standards, and it's usually carried out by national or international regulatory bodies. So this process of regulating activities is usually supported by activities that could be manual or centralized. And so as you can see on the screen, like a traditional system, displayed there. And this technology usually, has some hindrances, the traditional technology, which brings us to our research problem. So looking into the issues that our research wants to address, we'll focus on the operational challenges that are faced by the traditional regulatory systems before adoption of blockchain technology. And as at the outset, we can observe that the current system inefficiencies depicted here through the cartoon here shows how frustrating it can be and overwhelming by the manual and cumbersome process required to initiate the inspections. So we've done this to just symbolize the administrative burden and susceptibility of the errors related to the inspection process. So moving to the chart on our right, we've quantified some of these operational challenges where you find that traditional methods could take significantly up to like 15 hours to complete, but when we implement our system, it could take 10 hours or less, which also, goes into incidences of data breaches, which informs why we want to concentrate on this research problem. So to our next slide is use of blockchain technology to cater for our proposed solution. So here, blockchain technology provides an enhancement of security by creating an encrypted record of each transaction. As you can see, some of the features of blockchain have been displayed on the screen. And the immutability is in the sense that it ensures that once inspection data will be entered on the blockchain, it cannot be altered or deleted. And this accuracy or permanence of records remains accessible for long-term safety assessment and also regulatory compliance reasons. And transparency in blockchain, just for your information, it doesn't mean that it's open or visible to everyone. It just means that all actions on the network will be traceable or verifiable without compromising any sensitive information. So this is important for the nuclear regulatory bodies to actually get data that they need at all times. So our next slide just it shows our methodology, and we selected the Hyperledger framework because it's quite robust. It's good for permission network, also which is important for our data integrity and security, as mentioned in our research topic. And the phases of regulatory inspection, which was another thing to consider, are these four, which is assignment of inspectors, and then we have assignment of inspectors to specific facilities, and then the inspection process where actual site assessments are done. And we have the review and evaluation where after the inspections have been done, they have to verify that it's actually done the way it's supposed to be done. And of course, reporting and et cetera, et cetera. And of course, we had the smart contracts development because that is like very key for our system. And we used this security and, sorry, I skipped the consensus mechanism, but we'll get to discuss this in the results section so that we get everybody to understand. But under the phase 5, which is security and threat model, this was very important to us because it just helped us to, safeguard our system against potential threats, which is what you're trying to do. So that is our smart, just an overview of our smart contracts. And with this, again, it has the, it's just what is it called? It's just an extension of the methodology, so I'll not really dwell into it. And this is the model that we implemented so that it can help us to manage threats. And STRIDE simply means spoofing, tampering, repetition, information disclosure, denial of service, and also elevation of privilege. And with that, I will move to the results and findings section. So we actually had a prototype for our research, and this is just the dashboard. that shows different components that we were able to simulate, which includes a dashboard highlighting the first one. This is the section where I'm at, the first one. It's highlighting the scheduled inspections, the completed ones, and also the facilities that have been inspected. And then when we move on to the next one, we are looking at the scheduled inspection section, where when an inspector has been assigned somewhere, they can view where they're supposed to go and conduct the particular inspection. And the third one shows the inspection report tracker, where if the inspection has been submitted and it's at review stage or the final stage, people are also able to see and interact with it. And of course, the last one has to do with the records of the activity. So this next slide is still part of the results. So this slide, we're just presenting performance comparison between our system and the traditional system. We found that things like the transaction, things like traditional system being able to process more transactions per second compared to the old system, as seen here, like 1,156 compared to the new system, which is slightly lower at 743. That is good because although the blockchain system has fewer transactions, it's focusing on the security and verifying each of the transactions. So that is why the transaction number is like that. And of course, the latency here, blockchain looks like it's higher because the complex consensus mechanism, as I said, it's proof of authority. It makes it to slow down because, again, it has to make sure that everything is up to standard. And we can also look at the report generation time. Now, this one is slightly low, which is good because people don't have to do it the manual way where they have to write, then type and all that.
But
it's already typed, then it's automatically
I'm sorry, requesting you to go to the conclusion.
Done. This section
kindly conclude, Elvira.
Threat distribution, like security, where we looked at 40% tampering and then the other as sin. And the security testing results, again, like the attacks before, are represented with this blue, the lighter shade of blue, and the attacks after are represented by the dark ones. So that just shows the mitigation effectiveness, again, in the lighter shade. So just to conclude, we were able to leverage Hyperledger Fabric and blockchain technology to enhance security and transparency in nuclear inspections. And we've also been able to implement a permission blockchain with the proof of authority consensus mechanism to enhance performance and security. And you're also able to automate workflows and standardize the inspection process using smart contracts. And hence, we are able to reduce human errors. So in short, our approach has been able to streamline the regulatory inspection. And our research contribution includes advancing nuclear regulatory system using blockchain-enabled framework that enhances security, efficiency, and transparency, and also providing a scalable solution for compliance and oversight in nuclear safety. Thank you.
Thank you very much for this presentation. Any question? Maybe one question to her? Otherwise, we can go directly to the next presentation. Anail Sam and Crescent Sembuli, are you ready? Sam.
Yeah.
Yes. And Sam, remember you have only 5 minutes. 5 minutes. Sam and
can you see my screen?
No, we can't see it.
Hello?
Hello? Yes.
Yeah, is my screen visible?
time, and try to be as brief as possible. Tell us the problem and show us the results and the conclusion quickly.
Actually, in our work, we, for the title synergizing
yes,
IoT
we can
and
see it. Go ahead.
We can see your screen. Monitoring system. Apparently, currently in a country like Tanzania, normally we are having a shortage of medical attendants to serve the patients. So we have come with this idea of producing this device which will be monitoring the condition or status of the patient, and to solve their issues once they want to be taken care. Actually, our work is not a new innovation; it's a development of the current innovation. But we have come with the idea of using the ESP microcontroller, which is a fastest microcontroller compared to the one which has been used previously with the other researchers. So, in our work, we have gone through different, related works where we have looked into different researchers about how did they do. But for example, the first researcher used ESP8266, which is somehow slower compared to our ESP32, which is faster. So our work, in our work, we have used this, the architecture, whereby we are going to have ESP32 as a main controller. Then we are going to have sensor, a microphone module sensor, which will be sensing the sound of the machines in the hospital close to the patient. Then we have the motion sensor, which will be detecting the motion of the patient, whether he is having seizure or not. Then we'll be having a push button switch for the patient to press it so that he or she can call the medical attendant for the help. And all the activity which are going to be done by the patient here are going to be sent to the mobile application, because we have a mobile application which will be notifying the medical attendant, either a nurse or a doctor, so that they can take care of that particular patient. So the key components in our system are mobile application, which will be accessible by the receptionist, nurse, and the doctors. ESP microcontroller, which will be the central hub for processing all the data and send them to the database, the sensors, which will detect whatever the thing which has been asked by the patient, so that he or she can receive the attend medical help from the healthcare taker. Then we have RFID card, which will be the one to register the patient once he or she want to be admitted in the hospital. So our work, it has been divided in the methodology. We have used two methodologies. The first one is the hardware and firm development, and the second one is the software development. In the hardware and firm development, we have developed a circuit diagram so that we can build a prototype. Then this circuit diagram was produced by using the ICTA software, whereby we have a portion of sensors and a portion of a microcontroller, which is ESP32 microcontroller. Then the device used in the circuit here, ESP32, RFID card reader, and the motion sensor, which will be detecting if there is a movement from the patient or a seizure. Then for the software development, we have developed a software by using Flutter, which is open source UI software development kit. And with the ESP32, we have coded this ESP32 with the Visual Studio Code by using C programming. So the setup of the software and the ESP32, which allow the ESP32 module to interact with the NFC card, which is the one used for the registration of the patient. So at the software, how the software looks, in the software, we have three categories of users: doctors, nurses, and receptionists. The doctor and the nurses can log into the application and check the status of the patient. The receptionist can also login in the application and register the patient, and also check the status of the patient. So the upper part of the software is how it is looked like this one. Then about the results and discussion. So in the results, actually, this is what we have noticed, that all the sensors, the motion sensors, which is there to detect whether there is a motion from or seizure possibility from the patient. It only took 0 to 10 seconds for the notification to be sent to the mobile application. And for the push button switch, when a patient is calling for assistance, it only takes 0 to 8 seconds for the notification to be sent to the application. And for the microphone module, when there is the abnormal sound from the machine at the hospital close to the patient, it only takes 0 to 10 seconds for the notification to be sent to the mobile application. So the doctor and the nurse can receive the notification within this time period of each and every sensor provided to the device. And the prototype we developed, this is the prototype, the picture of the prototype we developed. As you can see, we are having a microphone which detects the abnormal sound from the hospital equipment. We are having a motion sensor here, and then we are having a push button switch here. So in conclusion, we have seen that the ESP32, it has offered a unique advantage because of it is having the capability of using a very small power as well as working with the high frequency compared to the ESP, the previous version of the ESP. So in future work, we will aim to enhance this system by addressing key challenges, particularly in data protection issues that are to be involved in the connectivity of the internet once the internet is not available in the system. So furthermore, we also expect it to expand or to incorporate additional sensors, which will be integrated by using the machine learning algorithm so as to improve the way how the system works. We are also having a video which shows the demonstration. Let me share the video quickly.
Okay, good. The presentation was clear and somehow brief. Can display your address maybe so that people can keep in touch with you if they have some observations and some questions. But anyway, if there is one question here, you can ask it. One question, or you keep in touch with him because time is not on our side. The next presenters are Timothy Musharu, George Max Gomez, and Dietek Voltags. Very difficult to read these names. Can you connect Timothy Musharu? Yes, you are here. Oh, and please, we have only 5 minutes. You just go to the problem and you quickly go through the results and you conclude.
Thank you very much. My name is Timothy Musharu, and I'm presenting the paper on machine learning for activity tracking in smart environments, which is an evaluation study that stems from a body of work that we did in conjunction with the Nelson Mandela University in South Africa. In this presentation, I'm going to basically talk about the key challenges that we find in smart environments, take you through a bit of literature and the methodology that we used, as well as the results that we came up with from this study, as well as the conclusion and the future work. Smart environments are physical spaces that are embedded with sensors and actuators, which are mainly used for cases where you need to do health assistance monitoring, fitness tracking, or independent living. And you find that the key challenges that we have in smart environments is to do with multi-inhabitant recognition, which is distinguishing between the multiple users within the environment, as well as tracking their movements and activities, monitoring and understanding the activities of daily living that they're doing in the smart environment, which involve things like movement, feeding, dressing, personal hygiene, continence, and toileting. You find that also an additional problem to that is that we've got activity status monitoring, which is basically a complicated task to do to monitor whether activities have started, completed, or are in progress. In terms of the related literature, we basically show you basically the focus of the study. You find that literature has shown that there's different aspects that literature is focused on, which is multi-user focusing, basically having multi-user environments instead of single-user environments. There's also machine learning for activity recognition. There's supervised learning in smart environments. There's unsupervised learning in smart environments, as well as privacy concerns, synthetic data sets, and real-world data sets that the studies have looked at. Our study basically looks at all of these aspects, except that it's not applied to a real-world data set. We used a synthetic data set, and I'll explain to you how we are terming the synthetic data set a synthetic one. Also from related literature, we came up with a few topics where we are trying to determine what exactly is happening in the smart environment. We're basically trying to determine the levels of occupancy information, and this study focuses on tracking, which is following movement of individuals correctly, and activities, which determines what occupants are doing, as well as identity, which recognizes specific individuals. Our methodology was very simple. Basically, it followed a simple machine learning pipeline where we had data pre-processing for user tracking, feature extraction and selection. We also had a classifier model, which was then able to tell whether which inhabitant was which, and at which point this inhabitant was recognized. There's also activity tracking, which we did in the smart environment, where we had input data, the model, and it was able to tell us which activities were started, in progress, and completed. For the user recognition, obviously, we did the normal tasks like data cleaning, gathering the relevant data, and the classifier model construction that we used supervised learning models, which was the multi-layer perceptron and the deep neural network for the deep learning models. And then for the standard machine learning models, we used the decision tree and the random forest, and we did a comparison and evaluation of these models in terms of performance. In terms of the activity tracking, we basically looked at the input data. We used unsupervised learning method, which is the k-means clustering method with principal component analysis, and this was able to do an activity cluster mapping, which had the started, in progress, and completed activities. To generate the data set, we used a simulator, and in the simulation environment, as you can see, there's little inhabitants that are there, and we basically generated a data set. It's called a synthetic data set because it's artificially generated. If you want to get the same data set from a real world, it means you have to wait, for example, 3 years to get the same data. And in this case, through using artificial generation, we were able to generate as much data in a short space of time. For our methodology, we basically generate the data set using the simulator, and as you can see, after the generation of the data set, the generation is random, so you find that the label distribution for the inhabitants that were in the environment was unequally distributed, and we used a methodology called synthetic minority oversampling so that we can balance out the data. If you can see here, the data set shows that there's an imbalance. There's 92.5% of inhabitant A3 who basically had more majority of the data that we had. And after we balanced out the data, we now had a balanced data set which had an equal portion for each of the inhabitants, forming the basis of our machine learning tasks. Our experimentation setup and implementation was using Python, and basically with Python was the programming environment. We used TensorFlow and Keras, which was the machine learning libraries that we used to implement this. And the metrics that we used for evaluation was basically accuracy, precision, recall, and F1 score. The main metric that I would want you to remember is accuracy, because that's the one that measures how accurate this model was able to predict the inhabitants for inhabitant recognition in a smart environment. Basically, in terms of the results, you find that for inhabitant recognition in the traditional machine learning models where we had the decision tree and the random forest, you find that the decision tree had 90% accuracy, the random forest had 92% accuracy, which showed the benefits of ensembling. And in terms of the confusion matrix, you find that basically here we're trying to find out which models are basically confusing inhabitants in the environment, and you find that inhabitant A3 had very minimal confusion, as you can see, and inhabitant A1 and A2 were often confused by the model, but generally the model was able to correctly predict most of the inhabitants there. Both models were able to do that. In terms of the inhabitant tracking using deep learning models, we were able to use the multi-layer perceptron and the deep neural network. We implemented it. And in terms of the results in accuracy, the inhabitants were able to be recognized for 91% of the time and 89% of the time using the deep neural network. In terms of the results, this is just the overview so that you can see it. In terms of the random forest was the best performing model, obviously because of the ensembling technique in the random forest models. The multi-layer perceptron was the second best in the form of 91% in terms of accuracy. The decision tree was 90%, the neural network was 89%. For activity status tracking, basically we're showing the evaluation results of that, and basically, as you can see, in terms of the clusters, we searched for an elbow. We used an elbow technique to find the clusters, the number of clusters that we can separate the data into. We could possibly separate it at 3 clusters or 5 clusters, and we chose the 3 clusters because that's where the main elbow shows. And eventually in our results, we managed to come out with cluster 1, cluster 2, cluster 3, indicating that we were able to categorize the different labels or the different data set into the different clusters according to their time, whether the activity has been started, in progress, or stopped. And basically the conclusion of this study is that user recognition in smart environments is definitely possible. It demonstrates that synthetic data sets can definitely speed up model development by allowing early experimentation like we have done. We also show that smart environments, we can use the models that we have done for smart environments where real world data cannot be available. We also show that in terms of activity status tracking, then supervised learning models work relatively well for that, and we can use clustering to group activities, which opens the door for future research on time-based activity understanding in smart environments. After that, thank you very much, Mkaroze, asante sana, thank you very much, and this is me. This is the end of my presentation.
Yes, thank you for this very good presentation. Can you display your address, then if some people want to keep in touch to address some questions to you, they can do it later. But we are just taking this one.
Yeah, thank you for the presentation. That was very interesting. You talked about different tasks in the area, and one was inhabitant recognition, right? And you demonstrate, or you use different models for that. And yeah, can you go a bit more into detail which was the best performing model for this task and maybe why it was the best model?
Yeah, good question. You quickly answer it.
Okay, in terms of recognizing inhabitants in the smart environment, we had the random forest, which was the best performing model. Why the random forest is the best performing model is because the random forest are decision trees that are clustered together to form a random forest. So for classification tasks, you find that the random forest has a bit of an edge because it's decision trees that are ensembled in sequence, therefore giving a higher sort of accuracy in terms of classification tasks. Yeah, I hope I answered it well.
Okay, thank you very much. The next presentation, Gladys Mange, are you here? Gladys and Waweru, Michael Kimele, are you with us here in the room or you are online? If you are online, please connect Gladys or Michael or Waweru. And please,
I hope you can hear me. Good afternoon.
Please, Gladys, I insist that you have only 5 minutes. Try to be as brief as possible. Yes, good afternoon. We can hear you well.
No problem. Thank you. My name is Gladys Nkathamange, a student from Jomo Kenyatta University of Agriculture and Technology. My research is on improving image denoising performance with supervisors are Professor Waweru Mwangi, Professor George Gomez, and Michael Kimwele. So I go to the introduction. So image restoration, working on image restoration, and our aim is to create a model that is going to be enhanced as far as image restoration is concerned. So restoration involves transforming distorted images to high quality ones, and those distortion can happen because of noise being introduced into the images, or blurring, or low resolution. So we seek to develop a CNN model comprised of 2 CNN models and attention model, so that we can be able to reduce the complexity, the computational complexity. So our problem statement is that the convolutional neural networks, they are not new in this area, but they have limitations. So they've been used in image restoration, but they have a limitation whereby you find that they can be, they are able to extract the features, but they extract so many features such that they cause the redundancy. So this limitation can be addressed by incorporating the attention mechanism, which has the ability to suppress the noise while at the same time preserving the important details. That is what we're going to do as far as this research is concerned. So we looked at some of the related literatures.
Gladys,
and we were able
Gladys,
to see
you are
that
no longer sharing your screen. Kindly share the screen once again.
Okay. So the numerous researchers have tried to extend the network architecture of the CNN, the denoising, but the results are not usually optimal, and therefore we're looking at how we can be able to improve some of these. So we compared with the UNet, FDDNet, BRDNet, and we have the proposed method approach, the methodology, where now we have the 2 CNNs, and we incorporated 2 CNNs that have different architectures, so that we can be able to increase the number of different features that can be retrieved from the CNN. So we have the first CNN, and we have an attention model at the end. The second CNN, an attention model at the output. So this is the composition, the model composition of the lower CNN, and this is the model composition for the upper CNN. So after the CNNs have extracted the images, of which now the CNN in this case, they are acting as the encoder, so that they can be able to extract those features, and then the attention model acts as the decoder, so that it can be able to dynamically focus on integrating the information from the CNN feature maps to generate the relevant image. So we have the network architecture. So we have the convolutional layer, which extracts the features, and then the output from the convolutional layer is taken through the battery normalization, so that is able to improve on the convergence of the model training, and then the activation the activation function, the rectified linear unit that is used to solve the problem of gradient descent. So the encoder path, it captures the essential features, which I have already said that, and then now the attention model is able to focus on the important details. So we used batch renormalization after realizing that after using the batch normalization, and it was not performing very well because it doesn't work very well with mini batches, and the batch normalization has the capability of normalization of normalizing the data, of course, by including the parameters that adaptively control the influence of the batch statistics. So the attention mechanism, we used self-attention model, which is simpler to implement so that we can be able to use it to improve on the model. Then after we get the features, then we concatenate them and come up with the attention map that is able to now give out the noise.
Gladys, go
image.
to conclusion. Conclude, please, Gladys. Conclude.
We used
please conclude.
paper space, created virtual machines to perform these experiments, and we denoised images with 15, 25, 35, 15, 75 noise levels, and you can be able to see from the table that I'm sharing the results. So we have the data sets from CBSD 68, the Kodak and the CT images. So you can be able to see the results of the CNN that does not have attention, the results that it was able to give, and you can be able to see with the introduction of the attention model.
Gladys, we are asking you to conclude because time, the available time is over. Go to conclusion.
Problem. Yeah, that was not the race ratio. This is the structural similarity index measure, and you can be able to see that the CNN with attention is able to improve compared to the state of art. So we compared with DN CNN, FFD-net, IR CNN, the BRD-net, the CNN with no attention, and the CNN with attention. And you can be able to see that the CNN with attention improved in the results shared there. So those are the denoised images. These are some of the graphs, and the conclusion is that, of course, with the incorporation of the attention model, the CNN can be improved. We will further improve the model in our future work.
Thank you very much, Gladys. Can you display your contact once again so that people can address you some questions or observations, if any, because time doesn't allow for more discussion. Thank you very much for this very good presentation. The next group, I think you are with us, Daniel. I believe you will make it in 5 minutes. Just oh.
5 minutes. When you saw that you start on a bad note, then there's no point presenting. 10 minutes. Okay. Thank you very much. Good afternoon. My name is Daniel Nupeza. I'm an associate professor of environmental science at the University of Ghana. Okay, good. So the title of my presentation is Firm-Level Environmental Management and Industrial Symbiosis Among Selected Enterprises in the Agro-Food Value Chain in Ghana. This presentation is based on one of my graduate students' work, Stephen Yeboah-Owusu. So you see the authors there, 3 of us. Myself, Daniel Nupeza, Stephen Yeboah-Owusu, and Benedicta Fosumenza. So this will be the outline of my presentation, an introduction, what a problem is, aim and objectives, methodology, results and discussion, and then conclusion and recommendations. So as an introduction, there are vast quantities of byproducts perceived as waste, and they are created along the supply chain in agro-food systems. So when we talk about waste, it could be organic waste. It could also be waste from packaging material. It could be used containers and several other waste. Industrial agro-food sector is responsible for approximately 1.3 billion tons of waste annually, and food waste by composition, actually it's been shown that it will increase by about 70% to about 3.4 billion tons by 2015. And in sub-Saharan Africa, only 10% of waste is expected to be managed well. So that means that we have a lot of waste in the environment. And actually this highlights the risk of raw material shortages for industries, especially in developing countries. It's been estimated by the United Nations Environment Program that it will cost sub-Saharan Africa about $4 billion to mitigate such risk and impact on food security. So the agro-food sector, therefore, actually has huge potential in terms of material and energy recovery. So that's a picture about Africa. I talk about 10% of waste. It's only 10% that is managed very well. So if you look at this slide, now we come to Ghana. In the capital city of Ghana, in Accra, we produce about, in 2021, about 3,000 tons daily of waste. And the projection shows that by 2025, the waste that we produce will actually increase. Next slide, please. Yeah. So you can see from there that means by next year, we'll have about 6,000 tons of waste. And in the earlier presentation by my colleague, Samuel Korante, he mentioned the implication of that in terms of landfill size, leachate from landfill, and all of that. So clearly, it means that what we are doing, we are actually using a linear approach. So the traditional linear model of cradle to grave, take, make, waste, that is what we have. So if you look at that image there, you are actually taking a lot from the environment, you are making, you are generating waste, and the waste accumulates, it starts implication for landfill sites in terms of land size and all of that. So that's a linear approach. But then things could be done separately or differently. And if you look at this, it means that there's a new paradigm shift from take, make, use, dispose, pollute, to you taking things from the environment, you make, you reuse, you remake, and then you recycle. So that cyclical approach can actually reduce the amount of waste that we have in the environment. And again, next slide, please. If you look at the slide here, you can see that you can recover material, you can reuse material, you can remanufacture, you can recycle. And when you do that, you try to, it helps you to close material and energy loops. And if you're able to close that, then you are reducing the waste that is generated. So this idea can be taken further in terms of what we call industrial symbiosis, where the byproduct of FM can become input material for another. And that is what you have there, and then you can create a circular system. Now, what's the problem in Ghana? This idea of industrial symbiosis or circularity has been understudied, and meanwhile, it is an approach that can be used to mitigate the impact that we have as a result of a lot of byproduct generation. Because that shifts agro-industrial system from linear throughput economy to an ecosystem that nears complete circularity, or a round-put system. So to be able to mitigate these industrial symbiosis, when we talk about interdependency among firms, and when material and energy flows are circulated within and among industry to minimize waste, has been advocated for. So if you look at this diagram, we can talk about two traditionally independent industries. The first one, we have input A with an output A2. But you can have a waste byproduct A3 that is used by industry A. So that would be firm level environmental management. You can also have input B, output B. But you can have waste byproduct B3 that is used by industry B. And that will also be initiative at the industry level. But you can also have exchanges between industry A and industry B, and that will be a symbiotic relationship. So in this study, we're exploring the kind of management initiatives that exist at the firm level and then across firm levels. So again, adoption of industrial ecology is low in Africa, and then studies have shown that post-harvest losses remain very high. We are talking about 36% of fresh produce are actually destroyed, in terms of post-harvest losses, and therefore dry ones almost 35%. But we also have to remember that cities are industrial loops, or we can actually study and optimize them. And so we move on to the next one in terms of the study objectives. So this study objective, we wanted to look at the profile of selected enterprises within the agro-industrial value chain in Ghana, because there are anecdotal evidence in terms of exchanges, but we don't have documented evidence. So that's the first thing. And also assess and document firm-level environmental management initiatives. Also assess the level of interdependency of waste byproducts among selected enterprises, and model an eco-industrial network of potential exchanges. In other words, create a virtual network of what is possible. You can see our research framework and the assumptions and opinion that we have low adoption of industrial ecology or industrial symbiosis in Africa. That led to the study objective and the gaps, with respect to the agro-food value chain. So we did a full study. We look at the profile of industries, GPS, coordinates, trying to locate where these industries are. And then we also look at exchange between and across industries. And then we look at the material flow as well. And then that helps us to model eco-industrial networks. So in terms of the methodology, we use a qualitative approach. In some of it, we develop questionnaire. We ask questions, both open-ended and closed-ended questions. And we actually distributed a questionnaire to about 78 enterprises based on a sampling framework that we got from the Association of Ghana Industries. Okay, and then in terms of the potential exchanges, we use the Stand2 Web, which is a material flow analysis software to do this modeling. And we actually got data from the Business Advisory Council to validate the data the information that we got from the Association of Ghana Industries. Okay, so this is the study area. You need to move. Okay, yes. So in terms of the coordinates and all of that, the study was located within the Eastern and the Greater Accra regions of Ghana. We can move to the next slide. And in terms of the results, first of all, the demographics, we had about 60% males, 40% females. Their age distribution you have there. Next slide. In terms of education of the people that we interacted with. Next slide. So now in terms of the objective, the profile of industry, the distribution, 10 out of all the industries or the enterprises were alcoholic enterprises. Then we had food industries, non-alcoholic, packaging and waste management industries. So the input-output analysis using our software shows that in terms of the inputs, you have things like maize, wheat, rice, and then output, Tom Brown, Winnie makes meat, shito, which is a spicy, formula that is eaten in Ghana. And you can see the byproducts there, wastewater and all of that. And the input-output analysis for the alcoholic beverage industry, you see that as well. And then we can move on to the next one. For the non-alcoholic beverage, we have the input fruits, and the outputs is fruit juice, for example. There are fruit spices as byproducts. So the idea is that how can these byproducts be mapped, onto other industries, so that instead of landfilling that up, all of that going into waste, what could be done with it? So this follows the same thing in terms of the input-output analysis. So I'll move on, still looking at the input-output analysis in tabular form, the next ones. Yeah, so here, for example, you see the industry type, food industry. So Tom Brown, Winnie makes, you see the input material, the waste byproduct. So if you take the non-alcoholic industry, for example, you see also the byproduct as well. The waste management, the output here is compost, treated water, and in terms of the inputs, you have industrial and domestic waste. Okay, so what about some of the initiatives taken up by the firms? So, for example, some use alcohol tanks for water storage instead of just throwing them away. Some convert bio-waste to compost. They have general waste management initiatives, reuse of solid waste, building orientation to allow air and light and to reduce energy use. So these are some of the initiatives. And in terms of reuse of wastewater, based on a Likert scale, they score 6.4 out of 7, meaning that many of the companies say they use waste byproduct, they reuse that. And in terms of general pollution prevention initiatives, a score of 5.67 out of 7, And now, talking about some of the other initiatives within the firm, we see what the firms do, and their interaction with other firms. Based on the interviews, about 32.05% of the firms say that they exchange material, and then those that have environmental management initiative within their firm and across firms, we see that as well. Okay, so here this again shows you the interdependencies among enterprises or industrial symbiosis. And so when you have IS, sorry, the screen is not showing. Okay, please, next. Next. Okay, yeah, here. So you see primary enterprise, IS 54. We use code for the enterprises. It means that is the enterprise among the enterprises we are studying. They are dependent enterprises. So 6 non-alcoholic enterprises, outgrower farms, for example. So these are some of the exchanges. And the byproducts exchange, waste fruits, rejected fruits, and all of that. So, I mean, this goes on and on. And so you can see, for example, the primary industry, briquette industry. It's not among the industry that we sampled, but it means that the dependent industry, our industry 25 and 59, actually sell waste cocoa products and cocoa husk to this primary enterprise, and they use that for briquette making, So that goes on, and the final objective, based on all what we got in terms of the exchanges that are possible, we then modeled the very last slide. No, please. I think before you move too fast. No, go up. No. I think you are the earlier slides. Still go. I'll tell you when you get there. No, please go. Go up. Can I? Yeah, so you go up. All right. Yes. That please. It's not projecting. It will come. Okay, yes, so this is a slide. So if you look at that, for example, it means that these are the exchanges based on the interviews we did and then the modeling that we did. It shows that we had different industries, the food industry, alcohol recycling, alcohol and all of that. So I'll just show you one. So look at the solid waste management. So the solid waste management, some of them we derive compost out of that, and some farms buy that, and then they use the compost as manure for their farms. And from there you can trace it to the fruit juice. The farms are used to grow fruits. The fruits are used for fruit juice. And then the fruit juice, you may have fruit waste coming out of that. And then that can be used for biogas generation. So that's just one loop. It's showing you, but you see an interaction of what is possible in a modeled interdependencies. The next slide. Yeah, so this is just a key to the interdependencies. So what do we conclude from this study? At least from the study, It means that at the enterprise level, we had almost 78% implemented environmental management initiatives. But we've also established that we've also established that there are potential exchanges, which shows that industrial symbiosis can be enhanced. And the second point there, among enterprises, we have about 54% implemented interdependency initiatives, while 76% noted potential concerns among consumers over the use of byproducts, especially for the manufacture of edibles. Now, I want to make this point that cities are industrial loops once again, which must be studied and optimized as raw material sources. And we noticed existing synergy was between food and non-alcoholic beverage industries and the waste management industry for the manufacture of compost. And that modeling potential synergies, the study has revealed that establishing wastewater treatment and steam biogas plants, in addition to incentives from regulators, will be essential to transitioning towards circularity. I make that point because if you look at the model that we have, you have a biogas plant, but actually it was just one company that's doing that. And there's a lot of waste that is generated. At this point, I will ask that what are the next steps? There's a roadmap in terms of having a full-fledged industrial system within the agro-food industrial value chain. It starts from a preliminary assessment, which this study has done, and then identification of synergies. So the existing synergies, that's what the model shows, the kind of relationship that can exist. But then you will also notice that those are the possibilities. We haven't actually quantified the material to show that it will make economic sense to do that. So to be able to do that, one, you need to engage with businesses. You need to do a feasibility assessment in terms of the economic viability. And then implement that. Then you can do documentation for reviews. Then you can have a much more embracing, interdependency of industries. So in terms of further recommendations, it's very much related to the next steps I've mentioned. But I can say that further studies to evaluate the quantities of byproducts generated by industries and also simulate the economic viability for interdependencies among industries is recommended. And feasibility studies for the establishment of wastewater treatment and steam and our biogas plant. And one of my students has taken up the challenge to look at this for his PhD. I end here. You gave me 10 minutes. I hope that I didn't do too much time. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for this presentation. We are now moving again to MH1 because the guest of honor has been waiting for us. Let us all together move back to MH1. Thank you very much.